Okay, guys, let's get started. Welcome back. Just a few announcements about the exam coming up next week. DSP students, get in touch with me by this Friday if you don't hear from me with regard to a location for your exam. They're working on it. Your exam starts at the same time as everybody else's, which would be 10:10, but arrive by 10 a.m. The review sheet will actually be posted probably tonight, so if you want to get on space and start taking a look at that, you could tonight. There will be a review session the Tuesday before the Wednesday exam, the night before from 5 to 6 p.m. in 105 Stanley. I tried to get this room. It was not available. You must bring your own red Scantron sheet, and the bigger red one, not the small. No, all the red are pretty big, I think, right? Yeah, so are there two sizes of the red? Okay, anybody know if there are two sizes of the red? I know there's a green and a red, and the green is smaller, but you need to get the red one. And it's not a full page, but it's not as small as the green one either. Absolutely, you need to bring your own. Buy a few extra, because you're going to need them for all exams, and likely there'll be a classmate who doesn't have one. Okay, the exam is approximately 27 to 28 multiple choice questions, and there will be 4 short answers that are really definitional. You're going to need to define terms and give good examples of them. And the definitions and examples will be graded separately. You will have some degree of choice. You'll get a pool of terms and concepts and theories and so forth to choose from, and altogether you will need to define and give examples of 4. For the first exam, 95% of people stay to the bitter end. Okay, so keep that in mind that for the first exam, it really does take the full time. By the third exam, some people leave at 23 minutes past. I don't know how that's possible, but they do, and they get an A. Okay, so people get used to the exam, they start doing it faster, and the grades do tend to go up. I mentioned this already earlier this semester, a week or 2 ago, that I'm not out to get you guys. If you all get A's, wonderful, but I am out to give you a challenging exam, something that doesn't insult you, something that makes you think to the level I'm trying to get you guys to think. So these questions, multiple choice questions, are not regurgitation type questions. They are almost entirely applied to a particular situation. So you will need to understand attribution theory and apply it to the situation about Stanley and Sue. Okay, it's not going to be, hey, what does Kelly's covariation model say? Hey, what's automatic thinking? Hey, what's a schema? It's not like that. It would be, given what you know about schemas, okay, how would you interpret the situation? Okay, so it's a little bit like the kinds of questions I shoot up here during lecture, but they are better than the ones I shoot up here in lecture. Okay, but I never ask a straight out definitional question. You guys are beyond that. Okay, seriously, I don't think there's not a single multiple choice question is like that. Okay, how to study. Okay, memorization is only half the game. Of course, there's some memorization involved. It will get you probably a C on the exam. Okay, you really need to understand the concepts. You need to be able to explain it to your roommate who knows nothing about psychology. You need to be able to get them to understand what a schema is and how functional it is to have them. Okay, or you need to be able to go home on the weekend and tell your sister or your grandmother and be able to explain these concepts to them. Then you will get an A. Okay, you need to be explaining it to them, not like, well, it's kind of like, it's sort of like this and their face looks like this. Okay, you need to be able to know it and you need to be able to give them examples of it fluently. Okay? Do not be fooled. Social psychology, we are so lucky we're studying things that are interesting and important and relevant to our everyday lives, but it can give you the mistaken sense that you get everything. Okay? And I hope you do. I truly hope you do. But I have learned through 17 years of teaching this course that people are fooled into thinking they know more than they do on the first exam. So don't fall for it. Okay? Know it well. Explain it to people. Take your friend out for coffee for an hour. Tell them about the hardest concepts and make sure you really get it. Okay? Questions about the exam? Okay, we've got a lot to cover before the last 3 lectures of this first unit of the course. If you recall, we ended the lecture on Wednesday talking about this notion, or starting to talk about this notion that these schemas, this pre-existing knowledge that we have and carry around with us, that there are forces that tend to work to confirm what we already believe, to maintain this pre-existing knowledge that we have, what I'm calling schema maintenance. And these factors as a group I'm calling confirmation biases. And they're confirmation biases because they refer to our tendency to seek out, interpret, and actually even create information out there that verifies our pre-existing beliefs about the world, our schemas about the world, thereby maintaining them, keeping them the same. And I want to tell you about 4 different confirmation biases that are interesting, and one way to avoid these biases is to know that they exist in the first place. If you see connections between these biases, you are seeing things correctly. There's some blurring between these 4 different biases because they're all confirmation biases. But I'm going to label them as separate anyway. But don't freak out if you're seeing connections between them. That would be a good thing. Okay, the first one is perhaps the most straightforward. It's something known as the primacy effect. You've heard of this maybe in cognitive psychology. There's something known as the recency effect as well in memory. Here we're talking about the primacy effect, and we're talking about how information that you encounter first, primary. Okay, so in the case of social psychology, we're talking information that you encounter first about somebody you meet. Okay, the first piece of information you see about this person or learn or infer about this person has a greater impact on your impressions than information you encounter later. So the idea here is that you form an initial impression, start building a schema based on an initial piece of information you have about somebody, their race, their college affiliation, their major, their hair color, how they're dressed, what have you, and then that initial belief is maintained because subsequent information you encounter is interpreted in light of the initial information. What do I mean by that? Let's give you a concrete example of this. Remember Solomon Asch, he's the guy that did the warm-cold study back in 1946, showing very similar sets of traits to 2 different participants with only one trait differing, warm versus cold, and leading to very different impressions of Eliot's generosity. Recall that exercise in this class. In that same set of experiments, Asch also tested the primacy effect. This time he showed 2 groups of participants exactly the same set of traits. Not one different, exactly the same set of traits. Only the order in which these traits were presented varied. In one case, positive traits started the list. Intelligent, industrious, impulsive, critical, stubborn, envious. It goes from positive to negative. In the other case, it was exactly the same data. You're getting the exact same information. So, if you were a robot, a computer, you ought to compute the same impression. But you and I are not perfect, rational, robotic beings. Instead, we're human, and we tend to, or we can fall prey to the confirmation bias of interpreting subsequent information in light of what we initially believe. So if we initially think someone is intelligent and industrious, that colors what we think about critical. Oh, well, they're critical. That's a good thing, because that's intelligent critical. It's discerning. But when you see envious first and then see critical, okay, critical takes on a whole different meaning when considered in light of envy. Okay, so here's an example of actual impressions that participants back in 1946 formed who got the first set of traits versus the second set of traits, which are identical except the order. Oh my God, I can't even read it. I'm old. Okay. Okay, this person got the positive first. A person who knows what he wants and goes after it. He's impatient at people who are less gifted and ambitious with those who stand in his way. Well, that's not so bad. Okay, this is somebody who was good because it was decent because intelligence came first. Here's the second one. This person's goal qualities, such as industry and intelligence, is bound to be restricted by jealousy and stubbornness. The person is emotional. He's unsuccessful because he is weak and allows his bad points to cover up his good ones. Okay, talk about going beyond the information given there, right? Okay, but clearly a more negative impression in the second case than the former case, presumably because of something along the lines of the primacy effect. Okay, pretty straightforward. A confirmation bias. It leads our impressions to say the same. So imagine the last few weeks of school, you met somebody new. It is akin to you noting a particular piece of information about them. Oh, they're that kind of fraternity brother. Oh, they're part of that house. And how that initial piece of information may have colored your interpretation of subsequent data you gathered about this person. That's the idea here. Okay, perseverance effect. Number 2, confirmation bias. Here's the deal. It's a tendency for us, it's similar, it's a tendency for us to maintain, hold on to our beliefs even after they've been discredited. Everyday example of this is the notion of rumors, right? Once they get started, okay, people start believing, did you hear about her, blah, blah, blah. And even if you hear that rumor is discredited, there's still a lingering impression of that person based on a rumor, okay? How do they test this kind of idea in the laboratory? They gotta set up a situation where they get people to think something, discredit that information, say, oh, that's not really true, and see if they still want to cling on to that initial rumor, that initial information. Classic study done by Lee Ross, Mark Lepper, and Hubbard back in the 1970s is exactly along the lines of what they did in the laboratory. Imagine you're in this study, and you're told that you're going to be engaging in a decision-making task that requires a number of different trials, I think 25 altogether. In your first run of this decision-making task, you're given positive or negative feedback. Wow, you're pretty good at this decision-making kind of task. You scored 19 out of 25 right, okay? Or, oh, okay, you didn't score so well on the initial run. You scored about, 9 out of 25 right. So people are given they're building their initial beliefs about their decision-making abilities. So half the participants are thinking, starting to have a schema, I'm not a very good decision-maker of this kind, or I'm a pretty good decision-maker of this kind. The information, the feedback participants were given was then clearly discredited. The experimenter says, unambiguously, you know what? That was bogus. It was totally random assigned. The feedback I gave you has nothing to do with your actual performance on the test. Comprendo? Comprende? Comprende? Yes. Okay, they get it. They got it. Okay, now let's take the decision-making task one more time, and I want you to predict how you would do on this task that you're doing again. What do you think the finding here is? If we're talking about the perseverance effect. Okay, if it is randomly determined, people should be coming into the study, they should now have a clean slate. How they did, the feedback they got has no bearing on their actual abilities. So rationally speaking, you should see no real differences between participants in the two groups in their predictions about their future performance. But lo and behold, okay, people initially led to hold the belief they're not very good decision makers estimate worse future performance, significantly worse future performance, let's say a 14 out of 25, than participants who were initially given favorable feedback that was discredited. Don't believe it. Think about a time when you heard a rumor. And I bet you still believe it now. Okay? There are many different applications of this perseverance effect. One of them that I like to share, because a lot of students are interested in linkages between psychology and law, and because Law and Order is on every channel every day, so you get to see this. But you know how in trials, there are times when the judge says you have to, a certain piece of evidence that somebody introduced is inadmissible, right? You cannot let it affect your decisions. Strike it from the record. And all of us are sitting there going, yeah, like that's going to happen, right? I mean, that's out there already. Okay, so here we are. We're maybe seeing a case of perseverance effect happening in the real world. I mean, in the perseverance effect, it's not just remarked as being inadmissible. It would be like a judge saying that information is false. It's not just that you can't take it into account because it's not fair to take it into account, like prior bad behavior or something like that. It's actually wrong information. Well, that still influenced jurors' opinions in a high-stakes kind of environment, like a jury, a legal setting. In a study that tried to set up a similar sort of situation, it was a mock trial study. They looked at this notion that information that is discredited in the context of a jury legal case may still continue to impact people's jury decisions. In one condition, there were 3 altogether in the study. It's very straightforward. In one condition, mock jurors, okay, participants who were playing mock jurors, they saw minimal evidence against the defendant. So they're presented with minimal evidence, not such great evidence against the defendant. Not surprisingly, percentage of people voting for convicting the defendant was only 18%. Everything's fine and good, things make sense. In a second condition, totally different participants, they saw the same minimal evidence and they saw additional evidence. There's more data now against the defendant. This time they see an eyewitness identification against the defendant as well. Rationally, logically, sensibly, conviction rates were higher in this condition. Because not only did they see the minimal evidence against the defendant, but it was paired with someone saying, that's the person who did it. The defendant is the person who did it. You with me so far? Jumps up to 72% conviction rate. Everything's fine and good. Third condition, same evidence, same eyewitness identification. But our mock juror participants are also told that old lady who gave the eyewitness identification, she's actually legally blind and wasn't wearing her glasses at the time she made the eyewitness identification. This is an everyday example of discrediting high-stakes kind of information. What should, rationally, conviction rates look like in this condition? Yeah, go back down. In effect, they're really the same as the first condition, because they don't really have the eyewitness testimony information. Okay? Eyewitness, in this last eyewitness case, conviction rates were nearly identical to the second condition. 68% voted for condition, not different from the second condition. It's as if that discrediting information wasn't even there. Okay? The perseverance effect in a more real-world context. Okay, take the eye clickers out. Oh, I should turn on the eye clicker. Hold on just a second. And by the way, somebody gave me the good tip to say, count down when I'm about to stop the voting, because some of you are still mulling, and you want to at least get it in at the last minute, so I will do that from now on. I apologize for that. Okay, which of the following is the best example of the perseverance effect? Coach Khalil is worried about coaching Ben, who he heard can be very difficult, even though 2 of his fellow coaches said it was a delight to work with Ben just last season. B, Coach Khalil is convinced that girls are better at gymnastics than boys, even though his fellow coaches disagree with him. C, Coach Khalil is hesitant to let Alex compete because he heard other gymnasts say that Alex is off his game this season. Which of these examples has the ingredients of the perseverance effect? And people are voting. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, great. The answer is A. Right, this is not a hard one. Okay, number 12 people and number 24 people. I want you to understand why that is not the right answer, and A is. The critical part about A is that there was some kind of discrediting information. There was, these other coaches saying to Coach Khalil that it's not true, and yet Coach Khalil cannot stop believing. Okay, that kind of situation was not set up in the other two circumstances. Okay, you really got to get it, the perseverance effect. This is the type of thing you need to get, this level of getting to know that you really get things. Okay, everybody, get off, put your laptops aside. Everybody stand up, right in front of your seats. We're going to do a little in-class exercise to introduce the third confirmation bias. What I'm going to do is show you a series of numbers, and there is a rule that explains the series of numbers that is true of all these series of numbers that I'm going to show you. Once you feel you know the rule of these series of numbers, what is the rule that's going on here, please sit down, okay? Again, I'm going to show you strings of numbers. Once you think you know the rule that is common to all these strings of numbers, please sit down unambiguously, okay? Don't just hover or something. Okay, are we ready? Here's the first string. Okay, we still have people standing. Stay where you are, please. Okay, someone give me another string of numbers, and I'll tell you if it fits the rule or not. Yes, you. 124, 128, 132. That does fit the rule. Give me another one. Hold on. 513 does not fit the rule. Yes. 50, 54, 58 fits the rule. Yeah, if you think you're getting it now, sit down. Feel like you sit down. 1, 2, 3 fits the rule. Okay. What happened here? Yeah. Okay. Fits the rule. Okay, what happened here? I'd say you guys were all a little quick to jump to conclusions here. Okay. You all thought the rule. Is this where you wanted to go? Yeah. No. Okay, the rule was increasing integers, okay? But what we saw there is, 80% of the class were ready after two series of numbers, just two, okay? You're ready to say the rule is adding 4 each time, okay? This is an example, a silly in-class example, but powerful nonetheless, of the third confirmation bias I want to talk about, confirmatory hypothesis testing, okay? We think we know the rule, we think we know the hypothesis, okay? We have this hypothesis, and the problem sometimes is we go about testing it in a biased manner, such as people saying, hey, 50, 54, 58, see? That fits the rule, see? You keep giving me examples that are confirming what you already believe. Those were the 4 or 5 initial other examples you guys gave me. That's confirmatory hypothesis testing. We do not necessarily, in fact, we often don't, and this is the problem for scientists, okay? We often approach things in a way that's selective, biased toward confirming what our initial hunches already are, okay? In a classic experiment testing this, besides the fun demonstration we just did in class, this was a study done in the 1970s. These are all really classic social cognition experiments. Mark Schneider and Bill Swan, still active social psychologists these days, they had participants come into the lab, and they were told that there were interviewer or interviewee participants, okay? All participants ended up being interviewer participants, okay? They were told that they were going to interview the other participant to try to get a sense of what this other participant was like. Before they met the other person to interview, interviewer participants, were given information to lead them to have the expectation that the person they were about to meet was either extroverted or introverted. So I led you to believe that the rule was adding 4, or maybe in a different condition, I didn't plant that initial hypothesis, okay? Here they were led to believe schemas about introversion or extroversion were brought to mind. How do they get at the confirmatory hypothesis testing idea? In a very, very clever way. The interview participants were told that the interviews were going to be rather structured, and that they would have to choose from a list of pre-prepared questions, 6 of them that they wanted to ask the interviewee. In other words, some cover story I don't even remember, that there wasn't enough time, so you have to choose 6 of these questions. Unbeknownst to them, that list of questions was specially constructed so that a good number of the questions, if not all, were loaded, meaning there were questions that were going to get the kind of answers, were loaded to get a certain kind of answer. Let me give an example. Have you ever felt left out of a group? What is the obvious answer to this question for 99% of people? Yes, it is loaded toward looking somewhat introverted. How do you liven up a party? 99% of people can answer this question, even if they would never, in their right mind, do anything to liven up a party. But because you can answer this question, you end up looking extroverted. I'm really introverted. How do you liven up a party? I don't know, get lots of beer and turn on music. That doesn't mean I'm extroverted, but it makes me sound extroverted. Okay? The finding here showing confirmatory hypothesis testing tendencies is that interviewers systematically chose questions loaded toward the initial expectation they had. Those anticipating interviewing an extroverted person chose those how do you liven up a party kind of questions. Those expecting an interaction with an introvert asked the kind of questions that are more likely than not going to give them an answer that confirms their initial hypothesis. With me? Okay, all right. This is not unrelated to the last confirmation bias I want to talk about, and I know you guys have heard about this in the everyday news and commentary on the internet, what have you, or in intro psychology, for the notion of a self-fulfilling prophecy. In some ways, this kind of encompasses a lot of different elements of those other confirmation biases. You got to have an initial expectation, an initial schema, pre-existing belief. Let's say you think Southerners are supposed to be friendly. Okay, this expectation of yours that Southerners are supposed to be friendly is going to influence your behavior when you meet a Southerner. Okay, how do you approach people who you think are going to be friendly? What? In a friendly way. What do? Flip them off or something? No. Okay. If they're friendly people, you think they're supposed to be friendly, you're going to approach them warmly. Okay. You're going to act in a way consistent with your expectations. If you heard that Southerners are snotty, arrogant, what have you, okay, you're going to approach that interaction in a really different way. Okay. Still in line with your expectations, but the expectations are different. How is somebody who's treated in a friendly manner going to react in kind? Most people. Friendly. They're going to act in a way that confirms how you treated them. I am acting friendly because I think you're going to be friendly. Your friendly behavior makes me act friendly. This is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The process, the cycle by which your expectations about another person influence your behavior in a manner consistent with your expectations, thereby eliciting that very kind of behavior in the person, fulfilling your initial prophecy, fulfilling your initial belief. Yeah. Well, people can create situations, for example, that they fear, yes. But yes, I could probably come up with a non-human example but it still involves you as a human, but may not involve other people. You may make choices that, let's say you don't think you're very good at math, and so you only choose the really easy math courses. Okay, that's your behavior in line with your expectations, and then you have to take a standardized math test. Hey, look, you don't do very well on it because you acted in a